Deep in the vast forests of Canada, where ancient trees reach for the sky and wildlife lives by its own rugged rules, ribbons of highway cut through the wilderness. Down one of these roads, a big rig was barreling along. Behind the wheel was Jack, a trucker with years on the road, for whom long hauls through remote areas were just part of the daily grind. Mile after mile rolled by, the scenery barely changing, just a wall of trees, the sky, and the endless road ahead. Jack was starting to feel the fatigue setting in when something on the shoulder of the road caught his eye. It was a bear, but something was wrong. It wasn't foraging or trying to cross the road. The animal was moving slowly, heavily, its head hanging low. Jack slowed the truck, peering closer, and then his heart sank. Around the bear's neck, there was something dark, unnatural. It looked like a heavy, rusted collar, or a piece of broken chain. Jack carefully pulled over onto the shoulder and cut the engine. The silence of the forest, broken only by the sound of his own breath, felt deafening. The bear stood nearby, huge, but it looked gaunt and listless. Its fur was dull and matted in patches, and around its neck, yes, it was a length of thick metal chain embedded into the flesh. The rusted links had dug deep, leaving a raw, inflamed ring where the fur was rubbed away. You could tell it was causing the animal constant pain and suffering. How many years had it carried this burden? Where had it come from? The questions raced through Jack's mind. This wasn't some random wilderness accident. It was the result of human cruelty or neglect. The bear barely seemed to notice the truck. It just stood there, a symbol of quiet, prolonged agony. For a moment, Jack wrestled with himself. This was a wild, dangerous animal. Every instinct screamed at him to get back in the truck and drive away. But the sight of that rusted chain, that prison around the neck of a living creature, overruled the fear. He couldn't just leave. Jack knew he had a heavy-duty pair of bolt cutters in his toolbox. Slowly, trying not to make any sudden moves, he eased himself out of the cab. The bear lifted its head, looking at the man not with aggression, but with a kind of weary indifference. There was no fire of a wild beast in its eyes, only a deep-seated weariness. "Easy, boy, easy, just want to help," Jack muttered, not knowing if the bear could hear him or understand his tone. He carefully retrieved the bolt cutters. The tool felt heavy in his hands. Approaching was nerve-wracking. Jack moved incredibly slowly, not walking directly at the bear, but circling slightly, keeping up a low, calming murmur. He stopped a few yards away, giving the animal space to get used to his presence. The bear didn't move, just breathed heavily. Taking a deep breath, Jack closed the remaining distance. Up close, he could see the grim evidence of the chain's long torment. The skin around it was raw and looked incredibly painful. Trying hard not to touch the animal directly, Jack carefully positioned the jaws of the bolt cutters around one of the thick, rusty links. Snap! The metal didn't give easily. The bear flinched at the sound and vibration but didn't lash out. Jack froze for a second, then applied pressure again. Another sharp snap. The rusted link broke apart. Jack carefully pried the ends open. Now, did he need to cut the other side? Or maybe it would come off now. He gave a gentle tug. The heavy piece of chain slid off the bear's neck and landed on the ground with a dull thud. The bear instinctively shook its head, as if in disbelief at being free. It took a few tentative steps, unsure, like it was learning to move without the weight and restriction again. An ugly scar remained on its neck, a reminder of long years of suffering. Jack slowly backed away toward his truck. The bear stood for another moment, then turned its head and looked at the man. There wasn't gratitude in its eyes, not in the way humans understand it, but maybe there was a flicker of acknowledgement, or maybe Jack just wanted to think so. Then, slowly but with more confidence now, the bear turned and ambled towards the forest. Its massive form disappeared among the trees, leaving Jack alone on the empty road next to the discarded piece of rusted chain. Jack picked up the chain. It was heavy, cold, proof of someone's cruelty. He tossed it into the bed of his truck. Couldn't leave it lying there, and he'd need to show it to the authorities. Back in the cab, Jack sat for a few minutes in silence, catching his breath. His hands were shaking slightly. He hadn't just saved a bear. He had, in a small way, undone a wrong inflicted by humans. At the next truck stop, he'd make sure to radio or call the wildlife authorities, report where he'd seen the bear and tell them about the chain. Maybe they could check on the animal's condition or find out where it came from. As he drove on, Jack thought about the bear. Would it survive? Could it ever truly be wild and free again after all those years? There were no answers, but there was hope. Hope that somewhere, deep in the Canadian wilderness, the freed giant would find its way back to healing. And for Jack, this day would forever be a reminder that even on a lonely stretch of road, you can encounter something that changes your perspective, and that compassion knows no bounds.